the flood, when an unrighteous way of life developed, one characterized by sin and rebellion against God and his will. Hence, Paul could also speak of the God of this system of things as blinding the minds of unbelievers, an evident reference to Satan the devil. 2 Co 4. Compare Job 12:31. Primarily, Satan's dominion and influence have molded the worldly eye on and given it its distinctive features and spirit. Compare F2. 1-2. Commenting on Romans 12:2, the Expositor's Greek Testament Volume 2, p. 688 says, even apparent or superficial conformity to a system controlled by such a spirit, much more an actual accommodation to its ways, would be fatal to the Christian life. Such worldly on was to continue long after the Apostles' day. For example, at Matthew 13:37-43, in explaining a parable, Jesus said that the field is the world chaosmos. The harvest is a conclusion of a system of things form of on. Therefore, just as the weeds are collected and burned with fire, so it will be in the conclusion of the system of things. Some translations, such as the King James Version, use world to translate both chaosmos and on in these verses. It is clear, however, that the farmer in the illustration does not burn up the field, representing the world, but only the weeds. Hence, what comes to an end, or concludes, is not the world chaosmos but the system of things on. George Campbell's translation renders these portions. The field is the world. The harvest is the conclusion of this state. So shall it be at the conclusion of this state. The Four Gospels, London, 1834. Jesus showed that the wheat represented true anointed Christians, genuine disciples, whereas the weeds represented imitation Christians. Thus, the conclusion of the system of things, here depicted as the harvest time, would not refer to the conclusion of the Jewish system of things, in this case, nor to the conclusion of the state in which wheat and weeds grew together undisturbed, but must refer to the end of the same system of things as later referred to by the Apostle, that is, the present system of things marked by satanic domination. 1t6. 17 So, too, with the additional illustration given by Jesus regarding the dragnet and the separation of the fish, depicting how it will be in the conclusion of the system of things. The angels will go out and separate the wicked from among the righteous. Mount 13. 47-50 These expressions by Jesus were doubtless in the disciples' minds when sometime later they asked the question as to the sign of his presence and of the conclusion of the system of things. Mount 24. 3 Jesus promised to be with his disciples in their disciplining work right down to the conclusion of the system of things also must refer to the conclusion of the state of affairs resulting from domination by Satan. Mount 28. 19-20. Other examples of texts where on refers to such wicked system of things include Luke 16. 8. 1 Corinthians 1. 20. 2. 6, 8. 3. 18. Ephesians 1. 21. The coming system of things. At Matthew 12. 32 Jesus is quoted as saying that anyone speaking against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven in this system of things nor in that to come. This might be read as a reference to the Jewish system of things and the then future system of things that Christ would bring in by means of the new covenant. However, the evidence indicates that he referred instead to the present wicked system of things and to a system of things that would be introduced at the conclusion of that wicked system of things. He referred to that same future state in promising that those living home and family textoi acute miritra longo, Beth 1057 he made the systems of things. The particular meaning of the Greek word on in these two verses has been variously understood. One way to understand them is to view the Greek term as referring to the distinguishing or characteristic features of a time period. In Hebrews chapter 11, the inspired writer is discussing how, by faith, the men of old times had witness borne to them. Verses 2 Then, in his succeeding words, he presents examples of faithful men in the pre-flood era, in the patriarchal epoch, and in the period of Israel's covenant relationship with God. during all these distinct periods, and by means of the developments caused, formed, and accomplished in them, God was working out his purpose to eliminate rebellion and provide the way for reconciliation with himself on the part of deserving humans by means of successive systems of things. So those men of old had to have, and did have, faith that the invisible God was indeed directing matters in an orderly manner. They believed that he was the unseen producer of the various systems of things and that the goal they sought, the fulfillment of the promise, was an absolute certainty in God's due time. In faith, they looked forward to the further outworking of God's purpose, which included the system of things produced by the new covenant based on Jesus' sacrifice. Heb 11. 39, 40. 12. 1, 18-28. Another way to understand the use of I middle dot on in Hebrews 1, 2 and 11. 3 is that it is an equivalent of the Greek term chaosmos in the sense of the world or universe, the totality of created things including the sun, moon, stars, and the earth itself. This view is evidently supported by